Wow. It's a little more packed than last time, huh?
Hey, Bobby, how
Having the offense that you – go ahead, John.
much better is the coach being his second season in your system?
Yeah, it's more. I think it's really across the whole NFL. When you get to year 2, you eliminate a lot of the steps to get to where you want to end up. So the verbiage is more familiar to the guys. Where year 1, a lot of the strain early on is verbiage, and I mean we're still going through that with the new players right now, just learning our terms that other people use, but they call something different, and hammering it in and how we say it and what we teach in that regard. But it definitely expedites the process being in year 2 without a doubt.
Have 3 guys who are capable of going for 1,000-yard seasons at the same time. How do you manage that? The demand that they may have, the utilizing all of their talents. Like, how do you manage that?
Yes, it's really the same as last year. That's what's fun. Is last year I would say all the time, you know, we got a group of guys in the receiver room, in the tight end room, in the running back room that we feel like have good skill sets, and they're all elite at something. And our job is to take advantage of what they're elite at. You know, how do we make sure that what fits them gets shown to the world and showcased, and you know we get a chance to use that in the pass game and in the run game. And I mean, we got a quarterback that really gives us no limitations in that regard. We can do all kinds of stuff to make sure that, you know, whatever we're calling and however we use guys, we're making sure that they're doing their strengths. And that's really what it all comes down to.
From a play calling standpoint, having Stephon Diggs and a Joe Mixon added to what you already had with Nico, Tank, Dalton, and all these other players, what kind of freedom does that give you in terms of flexibility, things you can try to do? You were saying that there's like no limits, but what kind of things is your vision for this offense?
Yeah, it's really that. It takes all limits off whatever you feel you need to do to win a game. You know, if we feel like we got to throw the ball deep to win a game, we could do that. If we got to throw it short to win a game, we could do that. If we got to run the ball 40 times to win a game, we feel like we could do that. So it just enables and empowers all of us to really do whatever's necessary that given week to beat the opponent in front of us. And everybody on our offense and really on our team right now is all in on that, and that's what's making this really fun.
From the interview process, going through meeting with these teams, having the chance to interview for head coaching positions, do you feel like that can help you in what you bring back? And what's the thought process for you in terms of, hey, the Texans kind of wanted to make sure I felt very welcome and to be back? Yeah,
I'm extremely grateful to the McNairs, to Nick. I know I've said it in the past, but I can't say enough about D'Amico as a coach and as a person, and what they've all meant to me and how great they've been through everything. You know, I've been blessed that the players we have are just a really enjoyable group to be around as players and as people. I've had a lot of fun. I'm fired up to do it again this year, and I was blessed last year to have the opportunity to have a few head coach interviews and go through that process and see what that's like. But I can't even begin to describe my excitement for just staying in Houston, getting back at it, and really going out and building on what we did last year.
Coach, last year, by the end of the season, you had gained so much trust in CJ and him being able to call a game basically himself. Going into year 2, how much more input would he have into this system with you and him working together?
It's really the same. He had a lot of input last year as well. It's more what he's comfortable suggesting. And, when we have dialogue, I said last year, we get to the answer a lot faster. There could be weeks where there's more dialogue because he has more thoughts. There could be weeks where we're already on the same page because of what we went through last year, and there's not a lot of dialogue needed. But that really won't change from last year. I think the biggest thing going into year 2 for CJ is really year 2 for a quarterback is a big year. It's a really, really impactful year to me that kind of sets the trajectory for the rest of his career. And I think a lot of that has to do with you get a chance to hammer the fundamentals. Like last year, there's a lot going on. You got to hit fundamentals, you got to hit verbiage, you got to hit play calls, you got to hit protections, you got to hit all this stuff. And you hit fundamentals to a degree, but you can only do so much. Now we really get to dive into the fundamentals of this is what we do and how we play and what makes him great, and really fit that and grow that within our offense. So that really, to me, is what's been just through phase 2 and OTA so far. I mean, he's on board and all in, and he's picking up right where he left off for sure.
You guys ranked 23rd in 11 personnel usage. You guys use a lot more 21 and 12. Well, not more than 12, 11, but you use that a decent amount. What's going to be that marrying 11 personnel with 21, 12, knowing that now you have a Stephon Diggs, but you also added in a Joe Mixon, and trying to marriage those two personnel usages together?
Yeah, it's actually, I know it seems like it'd probably be hard, but it's actually pretty easy because a lot of it's dictated on what they do and what's the best way for us to attack that. And if it's a heavy 21-12 game, all our receivers are still out there working. You still go 11 in third down. You still go 11 in the red zone a good amount. And we really believe in keeping all our guys fresh, so that when they step on the field, they got 100% every play. And if it's a heavy 11 personnel game, then we have a lot of guys that can go fill that role. It could be a 10 personnel game. It really winds up sorting itself out through the course of the season. That's what, like I mentioned, that's what's fun for us is all of us are all in on just whatever we got to do to win this game this week. We're equipped to do that.
In the process of the offseason, does Nick and D'Amico approach you with, hey, maybe we could get this guy or maybe we get this guy, and then how do you kind of turn that back to feedback to them for how a player could work on the offense?
Yeah, it's part of what makes it Houston great. It's the way D'Amico and Nick work, and really the whole organization is very collaborative. They're always asking, what are your thoughts? What do you think of this? How do you feel about this? And we have straightforward conversations, and a lot of times, similar to CJ, the conversations aren't long because we say the same thing. But there's really nothing that goes on, that all of us aren't in agreement on, and really going full steam ahead in every regard. They're very, very open and honest on all fronts.
Why is Nixon a good scheme fit? Obviously, you signed off on trading for him, and how do you think he will fit?
Yeah, not to sound like I'm joking when I say this, but like he's just a really good running back in all regards. And it doesn't matter what run scheme you run. He's run zone schemes, he's run gap schemes, he's been used as a receiver. He's really done everything. And now that he's here and we meet the person, I can see why he's always been successful. He works his tail off. He has a great mindset. He's a professional. He knows that this time of year and all the way through the season is continuously about growth, and he fits right in with the culture we have.
Let's do a couple more.
So if I could piggyback off Cody's question, when they came to you about Stephon Diggs, what did you say, and what have you thought of how he's done so far since he's been here?
He's been great to work with. His big thing right now, kind of like we already talked about with some other guys, is verbiage, just picking up verbiage. It's a little different than when he was in Buffalo. But there's nothing that he hasn't seen or done before. And then the football player, man, is just he's so competitive. And I mean, it shows on tape. He is a lot like our quarterback in that he will do absolutely anything necessary to win the game. Whether he doesn't have the ball, he has the ball in his hands. At all times, he's in between the white lines. He's doing everything he can to win. He's a good route runner. I mean, he's got all the receiver traits you could ask for. But what jumps out to me and what fits with us and what we're always engaged with is how competitive guys are, how tough they are, and the style of play they have.
Bobby, what did you do? I mean, you got new tools to work with this year. But what did Bobby do to go back? Who was your Yoda that you had went back to and sort of did a self-evaluation on yourself going in year 2 and with what you got to deal with now?
My Yoda. I like it. That's a good one. I'm always asking people that help my career. I know I've said before, Kyle Shanahan and the Shanahan family have always been a huge impact on me in my career. But even on top of that, and probably the biggest influence on me personally was my dad growing up as a longtime NFL coach. I'll constantly talk to him about how the game has evolved, or maybe some things. I mean, he watches every one of our games, things that came up through the course of the season that he remembers. D'Amico is huge in that. And then my staff is phenomenal. I mean, I got a lot of experience on the staff. mixed in with some youth and a lot of energy and guys that can dive into a lot of different areas, self-scout wise or across the NFL, and pull things. And really at this point, I mean, we talked about players, but it's not just players. Like year 2 for the staff is big also. Everyone has a really clear picture of what it is we want to do and how it all fits, and being able to dissect that and kind of take things we see around the league and fit it into what we want to do and what our players are going to excel at. There's growth all the way across the board.
We'll close with DJ and Tim.
Obviously, when you're in San Fran, you had a bunch of skill talent as you do now, and obviously you did it last year. How much will the experiences from when you're in San Fran, along with last year, help you this year when you have a lot of mouths to feed?
Yeah, it's all the same. Our job at the end of the day is put every player in the best position possible for them to succeed, and that's endlessly our goal as coaches when we look at it. And that goes from teaching, the teaching aspect, as far as fundamentals, technique, the individual aspects of it, all the way up to the top level view of scheme. It's just how do we make sure that guys are in the best position they could be to do what they do best. And we got a lot of guys that do a lot of things well. So really how we marry that up and tie it all together is, again, a week-to-week thing, but it's no different than what we did last year.
Hey, Bobby, kind of following up on some of the questions about year 2. Year 2 for you, what's different? You in this role, how have you grown? What's different about you? You think about where you were this time last year.
I would say that the number one thing that stands out to me is relationships. Relationships with D'Amico, as head coach D'Amico, not friend and coworker D'Amico. I would say relationships with the rest of the coaching staff, and in particular relationships with the players. Everybody knowing each other. We were always, even last year, we were very open and honest at all times in meetings. But I mean, now it's even more evident. We already all have relationships. We care about each other a great deal. Whether the guys that were here last year are no longer with us, I mean, we still root for them. We still cheer for them. That's what's so cool about this sport. The bonds you make with the people that are in the building is something that I don't know if you could get really in other places with just the amount of unique individuals that you get.
Cool. Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
I'm supposed to have a good story. I don't really have one. I was gonna give I was rappelling down Mount Vesuvius, a little Zoolander quote, but I'm supposed to be out of boot today. Pretty much, basically. It's not a cool story at all. Jones fracture, screw. Hopefully out of boot today. So next time you guys are here, hopefully I'm moving around better.
Yeah, feel better.
All right.
What's it like to have the addition?
I missed you, man.
Yeah. Likewise. To have Daniil Hunter and Isas Shahir added to the equation with what you already had, what do you feel like this defense can be like?
Yeah, great. Both those guys have been really cool to work with. Daniil obviously a history of success rushing the passer. We think that hopefully playing in this front and stylistically can even enhance that. And partnering him with Will and the other guys we have rushing, we're excited about kind of seeing how that comes to fruition. And Aziz, I didn't have any history with personally. Obviously, D'Amico and that connection. I would say that the coolest thing with Aziz is just the level of command of the huddle, of the group, communication-wise. I mean, obviously something we've stressed, you guys that have been here all last year and everything. He's like A+ with that stuff, and it's just watching it enhance everybody else, because of that, just taking some of that burden off, even Christian and some of the back end guys, and everyone's just on the same page. It's just been a really, really joy to watch him sort of take command of the huddle and do those things. So, really excited about the additions those guys are going to bring.
What are you looking for? Go ahead, Coach.
Coach, the defensive front alone did a really good job at getting after the quarterback last year, but now that you add Daniil Hunter, what are some of the individual intangibles that you are seeing in him that you guys didn't have last year?
Well, I would just say, any time that you have a rusher like him that is going to command attention from an offense, it just changes protections and how you do things, and that just sort of unlocks, other parts of the rush, I would say. So, like, when we are looking to attack protections, probably the biggest thing is just how predictable can you get the protection. If you have it's like anything in football, right? If you know what the other team's doing or has a good sense of, like, the percentages are pretty high that they're going to do it this way, then you have an answer for that. So, if they're focusing attention on Hunter or Will or whoever, it sort of unlocks some other things we can do or how we manipulate some of those protections. So I think just having just his presence and, again, his history of what he's done in the league, and I think teams are going to have to account for where he is and how we're using him, and then kind of how we play off that is going to just be sort of on us. But really all those guys, I mean, Danico is a unique style of rusher, again, obviously with Will, Mario Edwards, like all the guys that we have are just, we can move pieces around. I think it's just trying to put guys in different spots to either dictate protections or to win matchups that we like.
As his own individual goals coming into year 2, what is the goals for him from the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, again, this time of year, everyone trying to get better. I think Will is obviously very, like, high demanding of himself and what his expectations are. I do think, like, we obviously went through all the tape, and there's room for Will to get better. There is. I mean, obviously had a great season and love what he brings to the table and what he is for us, but there are definitely things that he can get better at. I think just, like, small thing like separation, like trying to get more extension and separation at the top of his rush, or things that, like, we've worked on. One of the really cool, it's just part of Danico's sort of system of how we do things. Every player that we have, we do an off-season sort of like study or off-season project on for, we call them pro-grow tapes. So, like, just one thing or something specific that each player can grow and get better at from what we saw off tape last year, whether they were here or somewhere else. So, like, we try to give each player something very specific, like, hey, we saw this on tape last year, like, let's focus on this, like, for these next 6 weeks. Can you get better at this? So, like, that's off your plate, and that's a step in the right direction. So between that and just, I think, the understanding, I think there was times last year Will was just throwing fastballs and being Will, and, like, I think his understanding of the defense and some of the stuff we just talked about, protections, and those things are kind of growing as I have conversations with him. So excited to see where he takes that for sure.
A similar question to what Cody, I think, was getting at. Y'all could potentially have like 5 or 6 new starters. Defense, why did y'all feel like it was important to make changes at a lot of your different positions, not just defensive line, but
yeah,
even though you all had success?
Yeah, I mean, it's, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. And I'm not saying that we had good players that moved on for other reasons, and I think we just tried to bring in, as many good players as we could at all spots. And, whether it's competition to raise the guys that have been here to get better, or there's guys that win those spots. I think, Nick did a really good job this offseason of just bringing in just good football players at all levels. And, this process now, this time of year, is just rolling those guys out and seeing what the best combination is and where we're playing those guys and how they fit together and stuff. So I don't think it was born of a need of saying, like, we have to replace these guys. It's just more like, let's just keep bringing in football players. And listen, the nature of NFL is you're going to have turnover every year. You know what I mean? It's pretty rare to bring back 11 starters. So I think it's just like, we know that's part of the business. And so how do we bring in the right players that are just going to hopefully take us to another level?
You tell us, please, you want your best pass rushers on the field, of course. In passing situations, will Autry move inside since he's rushed from both sides, so you can get him and Hunter and Anderson on the field?
Those are possibilities. We haven't even started scratching that surface yet. But again, I think I would say this at all levels of our defense. One of the things, like, it's just part of what we do. We try to be multidimensional, to bring guys in, say, that can rush inside or outside. Daniil rushed inside some last year and stood up and moved around. Corners that can play inside and outside, safeties that can drop down and cover, like all those things. Like, the more interchangeable parts and multidimensional talents you have, then it unlocks a lot of those things. So I don't think we're at a point in the year to, like, say this is how we're going to do that, but, like, all those options are on the table, I would say, John.
With the 2 corners, you guys brought in Okudah and Henderson, 4 top picks.
Yep.
Now the 3rd team. What kind of goes into the decision to bring those guys in? What's sort of the expectation for those guys, with some of the success they've had and then some of the, trials they've had?
Yeah, again, like you said, there's a lineage of talent there, and I think D'Amico might have even said it somewhere publicly, just, hey, we like the past doesn't matter, like what went right or wrong for those guys. Like our expectations are you learn the system, you get better, and again, there's a lot of competition. We obviously feel good about staying, holding down one of those spots, but we just wanted to bring in some guys to compete, and I thought that both those guys have talent, and our system fits from sort of schematically what we're going to ask the corners to do. So I feel like, again, being able to provide the depth of options there. Again, nothing's sorted out yet. We're kind of rolling those guys and giving everybody options to show us what they can do. But they're both long. They both can run. They've both played some football in the NFL. So hopefully we can. The system helps get them there.
Matt, last week, Jalen Petrie said that he was looking to kind of have more consistency. That's the big thing he's looking for from himself. Acknowledged some ups and downs last year. What do you see from you guys as a coaching staff? What you can do to kind of get Jalen playing and making the plays that he was making as a rookie? Yeah,
I said this actually the other day. I feel like a lot of those kind of, third-year guys like, Petrie, Sting, Christian, like all those guys are kind of, it's the first year where they have a second year in the system. There's some stability there. So I think like a lot of it will even, to some extent, like those guys, like I think Jalen's knowledge of the defense, again, some of it we're scrambling a little bit last year, obviously, and things are flying, and again, sort of having banking those hours that Jalen did. It's showing up now, just his level of communication, his sort of comfort in some of those things. So like I think the consistency comes from that, just the awareness, knowledge of the system, and being comfortable in everything we're asking him to do. I think that's just going to, again, we just try to ask all these guys to if you think you stink, like to just not be thinking when you're out there. So the more reps you have and the more comfort you have in the system and the scheme and the calls, it frees you up to go make those plays and to let their athleticism shine. So I would say sort of like that fits in with that. An overriding philosophy of the defense is like, let's just keep it simple, do what we do, and let's be really good at it. And then it lets those guys be playmakers. And he's obviously shown the ability to do that, to make plays. So we're hoping he gets there.
Speaking of the reps and the systems, towards the end of the year, it seemed like Christian Harris really caught a hold of what you all wanted to do, what the system was designed to do. Going into this year, him having that second year in this system, how important is it for him to take that next step and to have Aziz there to help him to take that next step as well? Yeah,
I think, again, I think we all saw that growth through the season and obviously in the production, but just being around him and his approach to everything. And I would say I think it's awesome seeing Aziz and him kind of together, and Aziz's history in the system and the front. But just like, again, I think we try to bring guys in that are at a professional level, that are guys that do it the right way, that approach their craft the right way. And so Christian sort of latching on to Aziz and seeing how he's done it and kind of how he's gotten to where he's gotten to has sort of enhanced Christian's development, I think, for sure. I think he's made a pretty big jump already this offseason and hope that continues.
Is there something publicly that you want to say to J.J. Watt?
Doing about what?
Anything.
No, miss you, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. I talk to him pretty frequently, so I don't need to say anything in public.
Talk to him.
Sorry, I got relegated. I know.
Talk to him in the building soon?
No. That's his game. I'm not going to play that one.
Hey, you mentioned Stingley a minute ago. You said you feel good about Stingley. Is that about the softest way you can describe the excitement level for what is next year?
I'm trying to be pretty steady about everything. No, I feel like had the injury last year, missed some time, came back, and I think we all similar to Christian, where like once he started playing a little bit and as the season progressed, started making some big plays for us. Obviously, like his ball skills are very impressive, and so I think similar even to JP, like that level of consistency from Sting, and like having hopefully a full season, full off season. He missed some time in the off season last year too. So like, man, he's been here. I'll say this. I've seen Sting in the building since February. He's been here like every day, even before the off-season program started, like working across the way in the bubble, like getting himself ready. So I think he's really locked in and committed to trying to maybe take it to that next level.
What have you seen from rookie Jamal Hill, and will this system allow him to be able to continue to make his transition from that safety position to the linebacker?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously we target guys that our linebackers probably around the league, but are a little bit more space type guys and speed guys, and he's obviously shown that skill set from playing safety, moving down, playing linebacker last year in college. So that's the same thing. Again, it's a learning curve from learning the system and the calls, and but hoping that like his athleticism is able to shine. It fits the profile of what we look for in linebackers.
You mentioned a moment ago with Henderson and Akuda how they have that length and size you look for and could ask for in this system. How would you marry that with Kamari Lassiter not having that length and speed? Would he be more of an interior type, or speak to the versatility, I guess?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say the versatility is probably the starting point for Kamari. He's got length. Like, he's not, I mean, those guys, Jeff's got really long arms. Like, Kamari's got length. He's not a small corner. And he's actually, like, really well built through his lower here. So, like, he's kind of a powerful, he's a pretty stout corner. Yeah, I think, again, another guy just more talking about, like, those interchangeable pieces and the versatility of, like, can we move him inside? Can we play him outside? Is there matchups that we like better? Again, a little bit's going to be, how much he can absorb. He's shown a really good, he's just a really smart football player and grasps things pretty well. So, I mean, up to this point, he's kind of absorbed everything we're throwing at him pretty good. So, like, I would say that would be always like the limiting thing for younger players, like how much can they learn and know at different positions and where we're trying to move him into spots. So we'll see kind of where he settles most comfortably, but I wouldn't call him a length deficient corner for sure.
What can you tell us about the guys that you have put in the middle of this defensive line now after not having Malik Collins back, Sheldon Rankins, the guys you addressed, Tim Settle, Foley Fatukasi? What can you tell us about those guys, how they're going to fit in this?
Yeah, honestly, I was saying that I actually feel pretty good about the depth of our interior guys. Foley I have a history with from New York, so he's been in the system. He's been great. Tim Settle's a bigger body type for us in there and still can move. For our system, I think the system lends itself to Tim's skill set and traits, so I'm excited about him. Honestly, the guys that kind of were here, like Kurt and Khalil, that like got a lot of reps in this system last year and sort of showed the same growth curve that some of these other guys that we've been talking about. Sosa's done a really good job. McTelvin. There's just and Mario's kind of been here for the last month or so and like really has some twitch and stuff. So I actually feel like there's a really good depth of players in that interior. And again, it's another position that we're kind of like moving them around, letting them all sort out and see kind of how it shakes. But I actually do feel like we've grown some depth there.
Thank you.
All right, cool guys.
Thank you, Matt.
I got a cool story though.